Welcome everyone to another edition of the Smart Office Podcast. Again, as you know, on this podcast, we deal with everything that is changing, and the office technology that is changing, and how people can empower themselves and adapt to this changing environment. So today, we're fortunate to have Laurie Kirkland, co-founder of 𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬 based in Michigan. Hi, Laurie. It's nice to meet you.
𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸, we were founded 2 years ago, really with the big promise of how do we actually use the change that AI is bringing to
Right.
better serve humanity in the workplace. As a technologist, I've led technology teams, innovations, I've been CTO, strong tech background for the last 25 plus years. One of the things that comes up regularly, and that's whether most of my work has been in the corporate space is that technology implementations fail or succeed based on how the humans involved really adopt the product or not. So as that we're seeing so many changes with AI, 𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸 is really was built and is thriving on how do we help bring humans along and upskill them as needed. So we provide leadership development, AI enablement to really help companies bring their people and teams along, because this is such a individual-led initiative and it's moving fast. And so my organization really helps move the human side alongside the machine changes that are happening.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what does the name 𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸 represent? How does it tie into the human transformation of what you just explained?
Yeah, so hopefully the name is a little bit clear in that it's really deeply human.
Right,
So if you look at in any type of technology, deep learning, deep sales, deep
right,
anything means it's really deep research, right? We're looking beyond the surface level. So it's not about looking at humans at how can we change someone from here to there by telling them something to do. It's actually around the transformation of being human centered. And the idea of 𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸 is that we understand from a neuroscience perspective and an
right,
individual perspective that every one of us has our own X factor. The thing that motivates us, our purpose, the thing that drives each of us is very individual. And so our organization really takes into account what are all the attributes of being human and how do we actually use the skills in our human operating system
right.
to actually align with the changes technology is bringing so it can better serve everybody.
That's good. I mean, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. How did your own leadership journey shape the company's philosophy?
Sure. So I went to University of Michigan, graduated with a neuroscience degree, did some research for a couple of years, but quickly got into technology in the late 90s.
Right.
So since then, I've been in so many roles. Really, my specialty, though, is around innovation,
Okay.
digital transformation, strategy, really looking at how do we stay kind of at I tend to always sit at the point of the bleeding edge, right? Like, where are
Right.
we going next? And so in my career, I have worked as an executive at a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
I've worked with several agencies. But again, the really big call right now is after the pandemic and then just with everything going on in the world, like we are in a time of change. And AI is a really good excuse to acknowledge that and start to fix some of the things that are no longer working in the workplace. And so that's where 𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸𝐸 was born out of, wait a minute, people are the biggest cost center for
Yeah.
organizations.
Mm-hmm.
They're the biggest determination of whether tech initiatives fail or succeed or fail. And in most organizations, there's not actually strategies around moving the people systems. So,
Right.
right, if you've got some teams that are stuck and some teams that are flowing and really innovative, it's like, how do we take what the innovative teams are doing and get the other teams unstuck? And how do we do that alongside the changes technology is bringing? And the awesome thing is that the kind of business technology divide that's always
Right.
been around in the IT world is collapsing, right? Like
Right.
now we
It's
need,
really collapsing.
yeah, we need the business side actually dream bigger
Mm-hmm.
to look more holistically at what the technology teams can build. And we just did not see, like I said, I was at a Fortune 500. I was looking
Right.
for organizations to hire, and we did not see really anybody focusing on that. So that's where
Right.
𝐍𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐬𝐸𝐸 came about, is there's a need in the marketplace to be like, look, people operate just like your IT systems do and your
Uh-huh.
tech stack does. There's very clear patterns around the human operating system that we can use and be strategic about to make one, work better for individuals, but overall to really accelerate where a corporation or any organization, any size organization can go
Right.
by becoming human centered and actually making our goals much more than profit. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants
Exactly. Everybody.
productivity.
Of course.
Like, can we just say that's the ante into the game? So if
Exactly.
that's what you're telling your employees the goal is, it's
Make
not
money.
very inspiring.
Yeah. So who do you serve? I mean, how many employees or people do you work with? I understand you work, you reach out to the entire world, or if somebody wants to reach out, do you serve anybody in the world, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, if you're looking to hire somebody who is going to help you add AI on as a little bit of, you don't really want to make changes, you just want to do the AI hype. Deep Human X is not the company. If
Right.
you're a change agent where you're like, there's got to be a better way to do this, and this
Mhm.
can be really any problem, but you're ready to like kind of make the next leap. That is who we serve. We work with a lot of small, medium sized businesses because they're often change makers.
Right.
We work with global organizations, but usually right within different teams where you've got leaders who are like, hey, I understand that as a leader, I actually am going to have to learn and I don't know the answer because none of
Right.
you, me, none of us know the answer. And the leaders who understand that and want to grow and become curious are often looking for people to help them. How do I even get started? How do I know what to focus on first? And so we are there for those types of leaders,
Yeah.
right? The leaders who are like, I don't want to spend $200 million on an IT investment
Yeah.
to replicate an already dysfunctional system. So we're really looking for organizations that are thinking about the future of work.
Yeah.
And yes, we want productivity. Every one of my clients wants productivity.
Right.
Everybody wants efficiency. And our typical clients and the people that we really serve are the people who are like, okay, I've got a great staff. I want to free up 50% of their time because I want
Right.
them to work on higher value things.
Exactly.
Those are people who we serve. So it's really change agents, people who want to make a better future, conscious leaders. We work a lot actually with IT staff because oftentimes, like the agile philosophy in technology has been around, in one form or another for the last couple of decades. But often what's happened is we've seen the tech teams, right, really build up but the business never really took it as a philosophy. It took it more as a
Right.
process. So while agile is not the answer, adaptability is definitely part of leadership of the future. And it's really joining in and getting business and technology together to think now that we have this amazing technology, let's think bigger about what we actually want to do with it.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm thinking, in your view, what does human-centered leadership really mean? Like, what does it mean to you, like, in terms of
It
the human?
means, like I'll share with you, like one of our clients that we work with was actually a healthcare company
Right.
that we worked with a group of doctors in a healthcare system. It was actually emergency medicine. So right there, we worked with this team that were really burned out because of all the administrative tasks that they had to do.
Exactly.
Like moving up in the organization meant more administrative tasks and less time with
Time
actual
to.
patients.
Exactly.
And like for me, that's a really big aha moment. If
Mhm.
our doctors are feeling burned out from their job, we're doing something wrong in the workplace, right? Like to
Yeah.
me, like doctors get to care and probably do the most altruistic work, and they're being burdened by administrative tasks, tedious processes that they're meant to create stability, but in general, it's like we've outgrown the industrial hierarchical production line thinking. And so we really have to move to, we like to use the harbor analogy where instead of looking at it like organizations are a factory. You look at it like we're more of a harbor where there's boats coming in and out. Leaders need to make sure that those boats aren't crashing into each other's.
Right.
Teams need to be talking. You have to have a safe place for people to anchor. So when we talk about human-centered leadership, that's what I'm talking about is actually looking at how are the systems changing and how are you as a leader or as an organization actually empowering more people to drive boats because you don't have to
Yeah.
manage the boat anymore, right? You're
Exactly.
actually you've got to kind of manage movement
Right.
versus a fixed environment. And that does require a change in mindset and a change in thinking because we're humans. That's the easiest thing to really anchor on in a time of rapid change, which
Right.
we are all in. And nobody, oh, yeah, and we don't know the destination.
Yeah,
Unlike the past, we don't know.
it's quite challenging now because the age of micromanagement seems to be like something of the past, right?
Yes.
It's like something of the past now. In that light, I want to ask you something that is actually something in especially the IT industry and everywhere now. How has leadership changed post pandemic and in the age of AI and remote work? What's your perspective on that? Because right now we have government administrations, they're kind of in a difficult situation. Back to work policies, remote work, and post pandemic, some industry leaders are saying we're still feeling the effect of pandemic of either overhiring, underhiring, and back to work. And now we're having the effect of either back to work, and it's a challenge in that area. So how has that leadership changed post pandemic and now with the confluence of AI coming into place?
Yeah.
What's your take
Well,
on that?
so the organizations that are focusing on their power moves as in person or not post pandemic, to me, are so far behind that they missed the whole point of the pandemic, right? Every one of us had time to look at what do we value, what is important to us. Many of us realize we love spending time with family and friends. And so when we tried to have people go back to the way it was before, like it's just not the same environment. So the old
Right,
models of operation don't work the same. The
right,
leaders who are trying to instill and hammer that more, they're seeing a lot of pushback. They're seeing a lot of
exactly.
absenteeism. And I, by the way, have no opinion on you for your own company have to decide is like, right, in remote or in person, or honestly, I feel like you should be hiring adults. So
Mhm.
does the company even need to weigh in on that? Right. But the leaders who are really starting to thrive are looking at different playbooks besides
Right.
just where their people are located. They're like, wait a minute, my team is showing me with the stress, the overcapacity, the
Hmm.
burnout, the disengagement, the absenteeism, right? That's really costly for companies. And the leaders who are saying, wait a minute, that is a sign that I have a people system process. Those are the leaders who are starting to look and make changes. And then AI, like I said, is also, you're going to have to change so much about your organization, anyways.
Right.
And, part of your staff is already way ahead. And if
Hmm.
you as leaders aren't thinking about how do I ask bigger questions to get more results, then that's kind of a lazy leadership pattern, if you
Right.
ask me. That's totally my opinion, but it does nod to organizations are at an existential point where you have to look at and say, okay, this has worked for us in the past.
Right.
But nobody living right now has been
Hmm.
through this much change in such a short time. So this is the time to go back and look and say, well, how can I change some of the ways my patterns of operation?
Right.
Don't want to change them? That's fine. You got a big fight and heaviness
Yeah.
in front of you. If you're willing to look, my gosh, just start talking to your people and actually start listening to what they're saying and know that you don't have to know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. And that
Hmm.
mindset shift has been giving a lot of freedom to leaders that we work with. I do a bunch of
Hmm.
industry research, so I'm always talking
Right.
with executives across industries. And I can't tell you how many like leaders have been really lonely and are like,
Right.
I'm supposed to know all the answers, but how can I
Yeah.
keep up?
You cannot keep up. So why do many leadership programs fail to create lasting change in your perspective? Like sometimes they
That's
fail,
my
and then you guys have to come in and probably try to help out in one way or the other. So how does that work?
I mean, I'm going to share with you one of the things I've learned every day getting up to try to figure out how do we use AI to better help humanity in the workplace
Yeah.
is that much of the leadership operating models today are
Right.
very top down, right? You talked
Right.
about micromanagement earlier. They're very much like, here's what you need to do.
Hmm.
I'm just, I'm an adult. So if you're not making it that purpose, if I'm not clear on what the goal is, and
Right.
like you and I said before, money is after the pandemic, none of us are like just okay working for money. We're like, no, we want to contribute.
Yeah.
We're human beings. We're evolutionarily wired to connect
Exactly.
and contribute. And so you got to start thinking about what are bigger things that people can individually can see their own purpose and align them to. So to me, the reason lasting change doesn't happen is because there is often selfishness or egoness of I know the right thing
Uh-huh.
coming from the top down instead of like so the models we work with are all brain-based models. They're
Right.
based on the human operating system. So we actually use mechanisms that your brain uses every time you walk into a room, for instance, your brain is analyzing 40 million bits of
Uh-huh.
information, right? And it's trying to decide what's the temperature, what's the heat? Is this a safe place that I should approach, or is this unsafe and I should avoid? And
Right.
so, to tie this back to what you asked about why long term leadership doesn't, or well, some of the programs don't last, it's because people are going in and are going in, but they're not seeing it as safe for them. So,
Uh-huh.
they go and they fulfill the trainings, but
Right.
they don't align it their own selves. So all of the work we do is very much around connected to me individually has to see my purpose, and I have to figure out what the organization purpose is, and I have to make my own alignment, and then all of a sudden change isn't so scary, right? It's like, okay, it's new, but I'm choosing to do that. So it's a
Right.
lot about making micro moments of choice and having people actually choose and continue to recommit to your company by using mechanisms that we already have deep in our heads.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, I mean, I keep hearing you talk about brain models. Tell me a little bit about this brain modeling techniques you're talking about. Sounds
Sure.
interesting.
Okay, so if I nerd out, you got to pull me back. But
Yeah.
I just absolutely love thinking about thinking. And people are really funny, right?
Yeah.
As we talked about, with the X factor, what motivates you to get up in the morning is different than
Right.
what motivates me. What drives me during the day is different from you. And
Everybody's
that's
different.
true. But when you're working in teams, we're all bringing our own energy to create a team cohesiveness or team stuckness or a team, right? We've all had teams we've hated working on. We've all had teams we've loved that are super
Uh-huh.
energizing. And with the brain-based model, what we do is we go through 4 steps. So the first is let me tell you, it's called the relevance model. And the
Okay.
whole point of it is like going to the gym. We're building your muscle
Uh-huh.
of choice. So we're helping you to create micro moments of choice by
Right.
practicing the skill, because the more you practice it, the stronger you get at it and the less you feel like stuff is happening to you. And
Right.
instead you're like, wait a minute, even if my circumstances don't change, I have a choice I can make.
Right.
So it goes with first is context, right? Really looking around and getting kind of a true assessment without judgment of where you're at, wherever you're at. And then it comes to purpose. So we quickly facilitate people, and your mind already does this, to be like, how is this valuable to me? And
Uh-huh.
so in the time of change, that becomes really important because you can anchor in what's important to you. Even if everything around you changes,
Right.
you can still feel safe. And that becomes important because change happens at the speed of safety, right?
Right.
And if your team doesn't understand how they're personally safe, it's going to take a whole lot. If you're just trying to tell them to be safe, that's not how it works. That's not
Uh-huh.
how we work as people. The third is lessen the define. So actually start looking at and becoming aware of what are the assumptions or limiting beliefs that you have put in place. They're probably based on decisions you made or patterns of operating that have been successful for you in the past. But in changing times, what we want to do is just have you get exposed so that you can say, okay, is that pattern still working? For instance, we used to be in a fixed environment, now we're in a moving environment.
Right.
Like, does the pattern that I've relied on in the past still work or not? If it does, great. That's not the one you need to change. If it
Right.
doesn't, you at least have a choice. And then the fourth is where we use AI. So all of our
Mhm.
work, people are being trained on how to think differently with
Right.
AI, all of our lessons. And it's around looking at with taking those 3 steps, what are the human operating patterns
Uh-huh.
that you are running, and how might that influence how you show up in a meeting, how you show up in a team? And so by doing that in a team setting, we have everyone do individual work and group work. And so we're aligning those and helping the team itself figure out how to move forward in alignment, because everybody's making themselves safe. And at the same time, when you're learning AI, you're brainstorming with AI, and you're coming to a group alignment. So that's our core brain model, and it's called the
Wow.
relevance model because
Relevance
it
model.
you can do it in a half a second, you can do it over 8 months. It's the
Wow.
same process as how your actual machine brain works. And so we just said, why are we fighting ourselves as human?
That's quite interesting. I mean, so how do you measure progress in this human-centered approach for brain based models? How do you
Yeah.
measure success
Well, it's super interesting. So we
or
work a
progress?
lot.
Let's say success or progress, whichever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is, again, having been at a Fortune 500 company and
Right.
writing reports and, doing all the quarterly reports that are required, I saw a lot that the metrics that we're measuring just aren't actually accurate of a
Uh-huh.
moving system. And so we work in the collective manner where, again, we don't think we have the answers. We think we have a really good method for
Right.
moving forward. But we have seen a lot of new types of metrics and measurements come out. And a couple of them, just to share with you, that are really trending right now is the measure of movement. Like, how is your
Okay.
connectedness within an organization? How are
Yeah.
your teams? How are your C levels staying on top of all of the changes? How are your teams interacting and building stuff together? So we have, gosh, we keep getting more and more. So that's the really fun thing. Another one is like stewardship. Like, is the organization taking care of what it needs to take care of to really make sure that an organization can move forward? So we're seeing stewardship is something that's being measured, which I've never seen an organization be
Okay.
like, are we taking care of people?
Right.
Another thing is just intelligence, and I don't
Right.
mean intelligence like, how smart are you? How smart are me? But how is the organization learning and growing in comparison to how much the change is going on around?
Mhm.
That's a really big one where it's, are you letting things emerge? And are you able to communicate those in a way that people can stay on top of? And I will share with you, this is the big one that most of the systems we have in place are failing miserably at this. Companies, I've noticed Slack has people who use Slack have come up with some creative stuff, but that's a really big one. And then the
Yeah.
other one that's popped up is cyclical. Are you
Okay.
actually ending stuff before you begin something
Begin
else?
stamp.
And if you begin something else, what are you purposefully ending? Like, you have
Mhm.
to be purposeful about closing cycles and not letting it go on forever. That's another thing our society is really, really bad at.
I see you have a lot of perspective on leadership working in most of these companies, seeing how things work, given your experience and your background. So, but what would leadership look like, let's say, looking into 2030 in the next 5 years,
Mhm.
especially with AI, automation, and burnout risk involved? How do you think it's going to be like? What do you think? How will it look like?
Well, so I'm an optimist naturally, and I do a lot of thinking about the future of work. I do a lot of research around it. I'm
Right.
always, like, literally every day I'm like, how do we build a
It
future
sounds like
work
we're in the one
for
of the
humanity?
greatest transformation in our lifetime with the AI coming out leadership and work. Yeah.
I mean, so to go to that, I think that leaders are, one, it's time to adopt a curious mindset. The
Right.
hierarchy of you know the answers or have to know the answers is gone. It just doesn't hold up
Exactly.
when you're leading in management. So
Mhm.
I see the leaders of the future are the ones who are able to ride the wave of change rather than try to control it. And that is a simple but huge mindset shift. So the people who are starting to thrive and definitely by 2030 are going to be the ones who are like, oh yeah, we're solid and we're okay. All right, I see this coming. Oh shoot, that way, this something came up I wasn't aware of, but it's okay. We can turn this boat this way and we have this lever. So the people who can manage movement and
Yeah.
flow are going to be the ones who are going to have organizations where you've got the most people thriving,
Right.
where your adaptability is good. So curiosity, adaptability, and then again, leaning on the human side of things. It's like it's our biggest cost center, and we don't
Right.
do anything strategically. So use your team members, move them from transaction pieces in your spreadsheet to co-creators of the organization of the future. So the
Yeah.
leaders who understand that they themselves have to transform and create bigger, more that your mission and values and get really clear on where you're going and know that that can change constantly, but it should always be bigger than what you can solve in the next couple of years. And then inspire the people individually to be like, I see that mission and I can consistently realign with it. Those are the leaders who are going to be, I mean, I feel like we're stepping into a time of outrageous innovation and growth.
Exactly.
And those are the leaders who are going to be, that's what I see the future of leadership looking like, is people who can guide the waves of change
Right.
and make sure people are safe going through that change. But they're going to hit, to go back to the harbor analogy, they're going to hit unknown lands that we've never seen before in humanity,
Exactly.
right? Like,
I
we could
mean,
do really cool things.
it seems like we are in one of the most transformational periods. Even past the age of Google, we're now in the age of AI, and leaders are facing that challenge of the kind of skills they are looking for. How can they move forward? the leadership. I mean, we certainly need a transformational leadership in this period. But let's come back. There's something I want to ask you about when it comes to technology.
Mhm.
How do you see technology supporting this kind of authentic leadership? How will that work?
Yeah, well, I've often had to pretend as a leader that there's not this division between business and
Right.
technology, but there is. There's like a system of technology working that is understood. And, for the last 25 years, we've had to build this infrastructure with the whole promise. And we kind of taught the business that this is how you have to think about technology. And now the business doesn't actually have to think about any of the stuff we've taught them. So where I see tech, I see the promise of business and tech really coming together.
Mhm.
And IT has a big leap ahead in building and failing and building and failing. Business hasn't really had that. They've had very predictable, small micro moments of change or small change, right? Whereas now we're going to see big, if we really do want to see big stuff that isn't, just a big marketing splash, but it's actual change, you're going to need those teams to come together. And I mean, I can't help but love the problem solving and creativeness of developers, right?
Right.
Like, we've got many developers who get so bored because they're asked to do the same thing over and over. And
Over
they're
and
like,
over.
no, I'm really good at doing deep, complex problems.
Right.
So I don't actually see the automation of code as a bad thing. I actually think
Right.
IT is going to be part of the really critical problem solvers of the future.
Right.
And that's where the business IT tech is merging, is you're going to have people who are really skilled and creative, even though many
Right.
people don't think of devs as creative, as
Yeah.
but it. If you've
Yeah, I
done it,
know.
you're like, it's very, very much problem solving. How do I
Right.
fix another challenge that I had no clue was there? And so that's how I see it. I think it's going to
Right.
be the wave of the future is going to be really important for everyone who's been in tech to help bring others along as well.
Mhm.
So I see.
Wow. Let's. I mean, there's a lot of young people in this mix here. They kind of get in that space, and they need clarity on how to move forward. What advice do you have for Gen Z professionals stepping into leadership roles?
Oh my gosh. So
I know.
I love Gen Z. I think it's so funny to hear about the generational divides, and that is just another sign that the system that we have in place is crumbling and a new one's being built.
Right.
Actually I mentor at Cornell. I mentor some 2 teams of people who are all graduate AI machine learning
Right.
students. And I am like absolutely amazed by them, their hope, their promise, their
Right.
drive, their skill, the possibility. Hey, Gen Z, you have the luxury of being in your phase of life where possibilities are
Mhm.
wide open. That's going to really help you. And bringing that to, old people like me,
Yeah.
or other people who are very stuck on, well, this is how we've done things. Like, that's actually going to be where you're going to be able to see this next generation really help lead the change that's happening. I think, I don't know. I also have a daughter who's in college. So I'm just like absolutely in love with, like, I forgot about how everything's possible when you're that age, because
Yeah. Everything's possible.
you make all these decisions when, through the decades, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute. So you lean into the possibility, keep asking the questions, really make that connection between what's possible and where you're at today. And I think that no one better than Gen Z is really the ones to do that, because of just where they're at in their phase of life, that they actually have a lot to contribute and a lot to help with the innovative side of things over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's cool. Um, and let's go down a little bit different. And I want to ask you some. Let's say, given your perspective, if you could redesign how we train leaders globally, what would you do differently than what has been done in the past, post pandemic? How would you do that differently?
Yeah. I mean,
Any
I
idea?
would say, like, first off, can we bring some joy? Can we bring some joy back to work? Like, we've
Right.
somehow gotten where the workplace to be that I have to be able to just put up with a lot. I have to go to
Right.
work and I can't be myself.
Exactly.
It's like tough and it's
The
painful.
top down approach and leadership methodology. So now
So I would change that. I would say start chasing some joy with your people. Like we are literally biologically wired to work, but
Right.
what's happened is somehow we've turned work, and I don't know if I have the reasoning or how we got here, but we are at a place where people are being looked at like transactions.
Right.
That doesn't feel good for the people who are looking at them like transactions. Often those leaders don't even realize they're doing that, and it doesn't feel good. And every one of us, I don't care what level you're at, even if you're CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you got a board, right?
Right.
Every one of us feels that transaction piece. So removing that again is one of the things I would do. Removing money as the goal, like money's the ante into the game. If you're not going to help us build revenue, then this just isn't the right, probably the corporate world isn't, or the business world isn't the right place for you, right?
Right.
But think that we just have an opportunity to like take a breath,
Right.
be like, wait a minute, actually, people really enjoy working and want to work when they feel a sense of contribution and a sense of purpose. So why do we not allow that to happen because of
Right.
standardization?
Let's talk a little bit about the human X, but before we go to that point, there's been a lot of change in the AI. I've certainly heard and read newspapers articles talking about how these big tech companies are cutting jobs. I mean, they're taking down 30, 40,000 employees. In the age of AI, they accuse AI of, they say they want to invest in AI. What advice would you give somebody in this in the job market, or in this, how to retrain themselves to be part of the AI rather than be excluded by this big tech? And we know very well that when it's happening with the big tech companies like Amazon, Microsoft, we know that the small and medium-sized companies, they are having that impact. They're doing it, but because we don't hear of that, because the number of employees can be relatively smaller than these big tech companies. But what advice to leaders? Some of them say they're cutting leadership roles. Some of them, they say cutting workforce. It's just a mix out there. What's your take on that? And they accuse AI. What
I
would you
know,
advise?
like the Amazon layoffs, like if you actually look into it, and I watched some really interesting stuff from the Amazon layoffs this week where people are like, they're saying it's because of AI, but it's not because of robotics. It's because they're doing just the old school playbook, which is the
Yeah.
factory mindset of, okay, we have to short term, we have to have higher profits. So we're going to let go of money over here, these people over here. So we
Yeah.
actually have more money to buy more power for our AI powered
Right.
systems. So yes, it kind of relates to AI, but it's not actually like AI taking somebody's jobs. I agree with you. I think that's a myth in the marketplace and a story I'm hoping we will stop telling, because it's just not the truth. But it goes back to the same thing. Like leaders are playing off of an old playbook, right? Lay off, hire back, lay off, hire back. And it's like, well, when are you going to start noticing that that's actually not working, and that's creating a ton of inefficiencies? You're creating more stress and pain for the employees you do have, instead of like, stop a minute and look at like, where is your company bleeding right now? Like,
Right.
and I don't mean bleeding revenue, I mean bleeding, like, right? Like, where is it really hurting? That's where you shine the light on and say, okay, we need to fix this.
Mhm.
This might be, I mean, and for every company, it's different. It might be your invoicing, it might be payroll, it might be marketing, it might be communication, it might be, and I'm not talking job departments. I'm talking
Right.
about like, where is the company just
Blin.
spending a lot of inefficient resources, and what
Uh-huh.
can you do to fix it? Is it your customer experience? Is it your, whatever it is? My advice to people who may have been laid off and are looking is get out there and create, follow your joy, use
Uh-huh.
AI. Like I love gardening. I can't even tell you how much I use
Yeah.
AI. Figure out a plant and help me like, here's my sun scope in my front
Right.
garden. Can you, whatever it is, use the technology to start trying to figure out how to ease some of your pain. Like
Right.
ease the stuff that's really causing you. Like I open up my refrigerator door, I snap a photo every night, and I say, make me 3 recipes.
Out of
Guess
this,
what? I just eliminated an hour of stress of
I
worrying
was
about
just
what I'm going to make, and I've got 3 options. So like that into so start easing learning AI by easing your pain. And even if
right.
it's like, go on all of the big LLMs, have free chatbots, and
Right.
start just using it and say, hey, I am a mother who doesn't like to cook.
Yeah.
What are ways I can use AI to help me?
Right.
That's the
That's
thing.
that's that's a good way to start right there. Let's talk about the human X a little bit. If potential clients want to contact you, we're going to post this out there. It's going to be out there in the public. How do they contact you? And what
Sure.
are some of the basic services they that you would offer them? I know I asked this at the beginning, but I just want to emphasize that once more.
Yeah. Well, you can go to our website, deephumanx.com, or I love to collaborate and connect with people. And this is a big challenge we're all facing. So please feel free to reach out to me. It's Lori Bredrick Kirkland at DeepHumanX on LinkedIn. So that's an easy way to do that. And really, what we're providing for organizations is how do I actually get started on meaningful work using AI? So
Right.
we don't come in and say you need to buy a big system. We're actually tech agnostic.
Yeah.
We're helping leaders and teams take a problem they have, get some quick wins with some quick automations, but
Right.
also at the same time, training themselves and their teams to start the transformational change that the mindset that's needed. So to move from that fixed mindset to a more fluid mindset. And we do that by solving real current problems. So if you are a leader, you have a leadership team, your executives, your board, or you just have teams that you're like, I'm a change agent and I'm ready to go. We provide leadership development. We provide workshops. We provide some light automations. We don't go crazy into it. There's plenty of
Right.
platforms who are doing
Yeah.
that. But if you're really looking to move the human side along with the AI or along with the technology, then we are a great partner for you to help you solve your problems.
If you want to automate this, one thing you would want to automate today, what would that be? Yourself?
I've automated a whole bunch. And I just want to share with people that like a part of my strategy during the week is that I make sure that I have time to go walk in the garden and walk
Yeah.
in trees and get back out in nature because that's one, the most calming thing for humans. And it really works for me to be strategic. I'm always like, wait a minute, where am I having a problem with that? How can I fix it? And so, I mean, I'm talking everything from how do I get my 12-year-old to clean her room to how do I get my global team to, understand and more tangibly explain what we do, right? Like I'm always using it, but I don't know. I mean, automation, there's so many ways, and it's not that automation is necessarily the tool. It's how do I
Right.
just ease
It's
the
a culture.
burden?
It's a mindset.
It is like, how do I ease the
Yeah.
burdens of the people around me and
Uh-huh.
myself so that we don't have to play this pretend game of stress? Because we all only get 24 hours. And I think
Exactly.
that for me, AI has really given me the sovereignty and agency to eliminate enough of it that I really feel like I am 100% in control of my time and my activity at all times, even when I'm doing work for other people that
Mhm.
may not be my favorite. I think that's where the automation comes into play is how do you get your own sovereignty back?
So, wow, that's good. So, one last question before we round up this podcast. How do you reach out to your clients? I know you've spoken about how clients reach out to you, but how do you generate leads and reach out to new clients across the world? How does that work for DBManX?
So we do have a network of people, but like I mentioned before, we really think that this movement is collective movement. So
Right.
we actually work with so many different companies and partnerships. Of course, I do social media and podcast and reach out to with automated emails and automated messages. But I found the most traction in the way that most people connect with us is through other people. And it's
Right.
it's kind of looking at change agents and generating ideas and saying someone's like, hey, you should meet with so and so. So it is from my network. But the interesting thing is there's a lot of different collectives that are growing. So my advice to others who want to do this is start looking at where there are groups that are aligned around the same things that you value. And
Right.
when I say value, I don't mean politics. I don't mean anything like that. I
Exactly.
mean like real human value. Like I value connection,
Right.
right? I value serving humanity, right? So those are people that I find I spend my time in different types of collectives and groups working with it. But that's how it goes. And by the way, it's fun for me when I get to do that because it's aligned with what is
Exactly.
purposeful for me.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, great. I mean, it's been nice talking to you, Laurie. I do
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Again, the Smart Office podcast is here. Would like to have you back. A wide range of topics. I mean, there's so much I realize that I'll need you to come back sometime again in the future. We'll have to
I'd
create time
love
for
to
that
help.
so that you share this knowledge.
Yeah,
So
no,
thank you
I'm
very
all about
much.
it. It's not one of us knows the answer, and my advice may help some people and spark inspiration in others, and others might be like, whatever. But it is all about us helping the greater good because we got lots of challenges ahead of us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.